Hi, everybody. I don't know why. Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Nora McInerny. I am a podcaster. I am an author. I am a person whose job it is to talk about difficult things. So I guess that is what brings me here. I have written 4 books. My niche is kind of funny stories about sad things, but my most popular piece of writing, hands down, is not any of my books. Kind of sad, you gotta stay humble. The most popular piece of writing that I have ever written is an obituary. When my dad died in 2014, my 3 siblings and I sat together on my parents' couch in a row, and we attempted to write my dad's obituary together. Now, I don't know if you've ever done a group project. They're terrible. They're awful. It's me, my brothers, my sister, all going back and forth, trying to summarize our dad's life together, trying to figure out what was the most important thing to Dad. I mean, was it that he was our dad? Was it golf? Was it his immense pride in the fact that he was a 4th generation Minneapolitan? If you don't know what that means, it means he lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota. In the end, we chose golf as the main headline. The irony of this entire exercise is that our dad wrote infomercials for a living. Our dad wrote infomercials. It was his job to summarize things in 10 minutes or less. No muss, no fuss. Our dad could have banged out that obituary and made it just a stellar sales pitch. And why hadn't we asked him to do that? Why? Our dad had cancer for at least 5 months. He was in the ICU. It was evident that he was dying. Even he knew it. Truly, one of the last days that he had in the ICU, a nurse came in and she asked him, "Mr. McInerny, how are we doing today?" And he said, "Kelsey, I'm kind of dying." And we all laughed, and she looked like she wanted to just disappear into a puff of smoke. But the point is that we all knew it, and we couldn't say it. We couldn't say it. We couldn't ask our dad, what's important? How do you want to be remembered? I mean, we got the basic details right. Everybody filled up the church basement and ate a bunch of ham sandwiches and mayonnaise-based salads. But why didn't we ask? Why was that so hard? That obituary was not, was not popular. Like I said, it got the job done. People showed up for the funeral. But that's about all it said. It was the when and the where and the what. 6 weeks after my dad died, my husband Aaron died too, which I know, it's like, what a bummer. It really was, okay? Aaron had been sick for 3 years with brain cancer, and we knew he was dying too. So the night that he entered hospice, after we went to the ER and the doctors told us to go home, that there was nothing else we could do, we disagreed. We knew that there was a lot else that we could do. We left the ER and we went and got pancakes. Then we picked up our son from daycare. We fed him dinner. We put him to bed. And we watched Game of Thrones. Because this was 2014, okay? It was still worth watching. And while we were sitting there, I paused the show and I said, "Aaron, will you do something for me?" And he said, "I'm not going to scratch your back. I'm the one with cancer. You scratch my back." And I said, we'll solve that debate later. Will you write your obituary with me? Right now, will you do it? And he said, okay. He talked, I typed, we laughed. It was like every other creative thing we'd ever done together. And when we were done, I closed my laptop and I said, I hope we never need that, even though we both knew that we would. And I needed it 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, I sent it in to the Minneapolis Star Tribune and they published it, which is, that's good. I have to admit, I wasn't sure if they would, and I'll tell you why. I'll actually just recite a part of the obituary to you. It started, Permort Aaron Joseph, age 35. Just the facts. died due to complications from a radioactive spider bite and years of crime fighting against a nefarious criminal named Cancer who has plagued our society for far too long. Civilians will recognize him best as Spider-Man and thank him for his years of service defending our fair city. His family knew him only as a mild-mannered art director, a designer of t-shirts, concert posters, ephemera, the kind of person who always had the right cardigan and the right thing to say, even when it was wildly inappropriate, and it often was. Aaron was known for his stories, which were very long, and that he liked to repeat often. I assumed that the obituary would be fact-checked, and I cannot stress this enough. If you live in the United States, no. An obituary is essentially an advertisement for your death. One reason my dad would have been so good at writing his own. You pay per line. So one, sometimes you got to be economical, but the point is they're going to publish whatever you write. I fully expected to submit it and get a call saying, so it says that his high school band reached critical acclaim in the northern suburbs of Minneapolis. Can you prove this? And I would not have been able to prove it. So the obituary came out, and it was perfect. Aaron's family read it. Aaron's friends read it. It was the perfect inside joke for the people who loved him. But something else happened too, which is that the obituary went viral, and this is 2014 viral. This is an era where, really, it was a simpler time. Maybe one or two things went viral a week or a day. Aaron's obituary was viral for, it felt like forever. Everywhere that I went for at least a week, on the internet, on TV, on the radio, there was Aaron. There was his story. And I started to get emails, messages on Facebook, all of these things from complete strangers who loved that they were in on the joke, who loved that, maybe the facts weren't 100% true. I cannot speak to, the fact that we did include his first wife, Gwen Stefani. I have not heard any commentary from her. I have to believe that she is dealing with her grief in her own way. Aaron and I had taken this dreaded task, something that was just too much for me to ask of my father, and we had returned it to its rightful place, which is that it was a privilege. It was a privilege to do it, and mostly it was a respite. It was a respite from the grueling reality of being sick in America and of dying in America. People expect the sick, especially the young and sick, to stay positive, to be a fighter. And Aaron tried to live up to that. He tried to, and I find it so unfair. Having stage 4 glioblastoma is not a fight. It's like stepping into the ring and agreeing to just be punched in the face repeatedly by Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali, by literally anyone. It hurts to get punched in the head, I imagine. It has not happened to me yet. The first night that Aaron was in the hospital, when we didn't even know what was happening, when we were in that liminal space where you know it's cancer, but it can't officially be cancer until somebody says that word. He looked at me in the dark and he said, how are we going to pay for this? Even though we were both somewhat educated, pretty well employed, every time we opened the mail and we got one of those envelopes that says this is not a bill, which why are you even sending it to me then? Why? Everybody knows it's basically a bill. It's like a bill preview. They're like, no, this isn't a bill, but eventually it will be a bill, and it will be like about this. So just brace yourselves. Like, you're gonna go broke, which is the reality for so many Americans, is that the things that don't kill you probably won't make you stronger. The things that don't kill you might permanently damage you psychologically and emotionally, and for sure financially. Aaron and I and our son were one of the millions of Americans who crowdsourced their way through sickness and death. Hundreds of people gave an average of $10 to an online fundraiser, which meant that I could pay off Aaron's medical debt, which meant that I could pay for his funeral, which meant that I could keep paying his mortgage even after I stopped going to work because I couldn't do it. Writing that obituary with him, publishing that obituary, it was all a privilege. It was a privilege to fall in love. to live up to our wedding vows, to make it through mostly sickness, to stay together until death parted us. It was a privilege to know that I was not the person who was responsible for telling the world what Aaron's life meant, how he wanted to be remembered. It was a privilege to do that with him. Something happens when you get sick. You can feel it happening to the people that you love when they're sick. You can feel it happening as they sort of inch their way towards the end of this life, where they stop being a person and they become a sad story. I could see that happening to Aaron. I hated it, and I know that he hated it. What Aaron gave me was a gift. It was the gift of knowing that what I put forth in the world was his wishes. It's important for all of us to be remembered not for how we died, but for who we were when we were alive. Aaron gave me a perpetual reminder that will exist as long as Google or the internet exists, as long as anybody can type in Aaron Joseph Permort, which is that, yes, sad things happen, assuredly. Yes, I hate that he died. Yes, I love, love, love that he lived. And he and all of us are always going to be so much more than just a sad story. Thank you.